Chapter 32. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mom. Ultia quickly ran to Wooloo and lay tightly in Wooloo's arms. When she saw her mother fighting the monster, her heart was in her throat, fearing that Wooloo would leave her again. Uludia, Mom is fine. Wooloo hugged Uludia and comforted her. Is this your daughter? Gildarts looked at Ultia, who looked exactly like Wooloo. Yeah. Wooloo replied with a smile, looking at Ultia with happiness in her eyes. That's great. Gildarts was happy for Wooloo when he saw her. Hey, uncle, you are so strong, what Wooloo said is true. Leo watched the whole process of Gildarts defeating Deliora, and his eyes were full of admiration. Before, when Leo heard Wooloo say that there were wizards stronger than her in the West, he was dismissive. He believed that Wooloo was the strongest and aimed to surpass Wooloo. But now that he saw Gildarts, he realized that what Wooloo said was true. You have good vision, boy. Gildarts felt the enthusiastic gaze from afar, and when he approached and heard Leo's words, he couldn't help laughing out loud. His heart seemed to blossom, and he patted Leo heavily on the shoulder. While they were chatting, the mayor and the residents came over. After seeing Deliora being eliminated, they were all surprised and their mouths widened, followed by heartfelt gratitude. The mayor and the residents were about to kneel down to express their gratitude to Wooloo and Gildarts, but Wooloo and Gildarts hurriedly helped them up, repeatedly saying that it was okay and asked them to get up quickly. After a round of greetings, Wooloo and Gildarts asked the mayor, "Mayor, what are the casualties among the residents in the town?" Alas, some people did not escape the aftermath of the explosion and unfortunately fell in the ruins. Some people were injured, but fortunately, if it weren't for the wizard, the casualties would be even more serious. The mayor sighed heavily. He had already counted the number of people. Those who were in the ruins of the explosion were probably Mage. Where is he now? Wooloo wanted to thank the mage in person. After all, it was difficult for her to withstand all the attacks alone. She felt guilty for not protecting everyone. The wizard disappeared after saving us. The mayor replied. Disappeared? Do you still remember what he looked like? Wooloo continued to ask. The wizard was wearing a cloak to hide his appearance, so we didn't know. The mayor shook his head helplessly. Okay, I got it. Wooloo knew it in his heart. It must be him. He used teleportation magic to save the residents, and then left with Sunday. Then, everyone returned to the town. With Wooloo's strenuous resistance, the town was not damaged much. There was only a big hole in the west of the town, which was destroyed by Gildarts. When Gildarts heard the mayor talking about this, he pretended not to hear it, as if it had nothing to do with him. After properly settling the people in the ruins, Wooloo talked to the mayor about the restoration work in the town. The mayor said gratefully that there was no need to trouble them, and he was grateful to help them kill the demon. After Wooloo finished talking with the mayor, she looked for Gray in the crowd. After all, that person asked her to accept Gray as her disciple. After searching back and forth in the crowd, Gray was finally found under a house. He was squatting there alone with his legs hugged in his hands, and his head buried deeply in his arms. The mayor came over and said softly, "Gray's parents have not been found. The child lost too in an instant, alas." The mayor only said half of his words and stopped talking, just sighing heavily. The fact that he didn't find it said it all. Wooloo walked quietly to Gray's side, her face full of guilt and self-blame. She slowly squatted down and gently hugged Gray. "Gray, I'm sorry." "Wooloo, why?" Gray felt Wooloo's embrace, raised his head, and looked at Wooloo with tearful eyes, his eyes full of endless grievances. "Gray, it's my fault. I failed to protect this town." When Wooloo saw Gray's heartbroken look, she felt as if she was stabbed by a needle. "Wooloo, I want to become stronger." Gray burst into tears, his tears pouring down like a flood, but his eyes flashed with an unwavering light. "Okay, Gray. From today on, I will do my best to teach you." A trace of relief flashed in Wooloo's eyes. Just like that, Wooloo accepted Gray as his disciple. Gray later built a cenotaph for his parents and presented them with a few chrysanthemums. He told them a lot, as if he wanted to pour out all his thoughts and pain. A day later, Wooloo and his party said goodbye to the townspeople and set out on a journey to Magnolia. They headed west without encountering any emergencies on the way. It was obvious that all problems had been solved when Gildarts came. They returned to Forth smoothly and boarded the train back to Magnolia. Along the way, Gray was silent. Even though Deliora was dead, the pain left behind still tormented his heart. However, with Gildarts and Leo accompanying him to chat along the way, he gradually recovered. During this period, Wooloo asked Gildarts some questions about Sunday. Gildarts wondered why Wooloo was so interested in him. Because I also met a man wearing the same cloak as him, and it was because of him that I found my daughter. Wooloo told Gildarts the details of what happened. That's really strange. Gildarts also told Wooloo about his reunion with his daughter. After that, the two looked at each other. After all, their experiences were basically the same. They even had no idea about the identity of Sun and the other person. Let's not talk about this anymore, Wooloo. What are you going to do when you get there? Why don't you join my guild? That's fine. After all, I still need to make a living. But I probably can't be your partner anymore. I still need to take care of 3 children. It's okay, just join us. When Wooloo and the others were heading towards Magnolia, Leila had already arrived in Magnolia. He first rested at home for a day, then returned to the guild and reported to Makarov that he was safe, and then walked into his room, almost collapsed on the table, not wanting to move at all. Along the way, he first released his thought body, and rushed on his way without stopping, sending the evidence of the Magic Development Bureau to Yajima, and then went to the town where Wooloo was to save Ultia, and then arranged for Wooloo to go to that town to accept Gray as his apprentice. He also used transformation magic to transform into the appearance of Wukong, and set out with Gildarts to the north to attack Deliora. For this plan, he also learned sleep magic and transformation magic. During the whole process, Leila did not rest well, and was exhausted. In order to avoid suspicion, he had to come back early. At this moment, Leila was lying on the table, and the fatigue surged like a tide. He could no longer resist and fell asleep. Chapter 33. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kana went to find Leila happily, but when she entered the room, she saw Leila sleeping. Leila, wake up, you've been sleeping for several days. Where did you go before? You're so tired. Kana walked to Leila, grabbed his arm and shook it. She was very curious about why Leila was in such a bad state after coming back. Well, Kana, go play with Laxus, I'll sleep a little longer. Leila felt her arm being shaken and woke up in a daze. When she saw it was Kana, she said casually, then lay down and continued to sleep without answering Kana's question. When Leila went out to execute the plan last time, Kana played with Laxus. Before leaving, Gildarts specifically asked Makarov to take good care of Kana, and Makarov asked Laxus to accompany Kana. After a few visits, the two became familiar with each other, and Laxus also took good care of Kana. Although Laxus is a few years older, he is a classmate of Kana, and Laxus also respects Gildarts very much. Leila, don't sleep. Kana saw that Leila looked drowsy and pushed him twice again. Go to sleep. You won't be able to sleep when your dad comes back. Seeing that Leila didn't respond, Kana left him alone after saying this. What? Uncle is coming back. Let's go. Leila woke up instantly after hearing Kana's words, and then followed Kana out of the room. After a bell rang, Gildarts, who was quietly waiting for the changes in the town, turned back and signaled to Wooloo to follow him and walked along the only road towards the guild. How did this town become like this? Gray and Leo followed Gildarts' footsteps. They watched as the normally normal town suddenly began to shake, and heard the broadcast saying that the town had entered Gildarts mode. Then the town was like a block, the foundations kept rising, and it was combined into a new shape. In the end, only one road was left, and there was a building at the end of the road. This took a lot of effort from the mayor. It was because of my return that this Gildarts mode came into being. It's just that they're afraid you'll sabotage it. Wooloo's words hit the nail on the head, though late. The complacent Gildarts was choked and speechless. However, Gildarts also showed off in front of Leo and Gray. The two kept asking Gildarts questions about this mode, and Gildarts explained them very seriously and patiently. After all, how could he miss this opportunity to show off? They walked to the guild, talking and laughing, and everyone in the guild stood at the door of the guild, waiting for Gildarts to come. The first to bear the brunt was Kana. She saw Gildarts and the people around him from a distance, and she couldn't wait to run to Gildarts and throw herself into his arms. "Dad, welcome back." Kana was filled with joy and snuggled happily in Gildarts' arms. She felt a little lost because she had to separate from Gildarts the last time she met him. "Ah." Gildarts caught Kana steadily, picked her up, and said with satisfaction, "Is this your daughter?" Ulu looked at Gildarts holding Kana with a happy smile on his face and asked curiously. "Yes, her name is Kana, isn't she cute?" Gildarts held Kana in his arms and proudly introduced her to Ulu, while also turning his head to let Ulu take a good look at Kana's cute appearance. "Well, it's really cute." Ulu also praised sincerely. "Dad, who is this ant?" Kana sat on Gildarts's arm, blinking her big eyes and looking at Wooloo curiously. "Well, just call her Aunt Wooloo," Gildarts said gently. "Hello, Aunt Wooloo." Kana greeted Wooloo obediently, and then her eyes fell on Ultia who was hiding behind Wooloo. After all, there were few other girls of the same age in the guild. "Hello to you too, Kana." Wooloo responded with a smile. "Let's go, I'll take you to see the president." After Gildarts and Ulu introduced Kana, they got back to the point. "Okay." Wooloo nodded. Then, Gildarts and the guild members walked into the guild, talking and laughing. After seeing Makarov, he led Wooloo to Makarov. After they walked into the guild, the other members of the guild began to whisper. After hearing Wooloo's introduction, they couldn't help but wonder if it was that Wooloo. Then a group of people followed into the guild noisily, waiting to see the show. "Hey, President," Gildarts said with a smile to Makarov. "Gildarts, is everything done?" Makarov sat on the counter and looked at Gildarts and asked. "Well, everything went well. And I brought someone with me, her name is Ulu, and she wants to join our guild." Gildarts stepped aside to make room for Ulu, then extended his right hand and introduced her to Makarov. "Wooloo. Is that Wooloo from the north?" Makarov jumped off the counter and stared at Wooloo standing there. "Hello, President Makarov, I am Ulu, and I want to join Fairy Tale." Ulu and Makarov shook hands and said hello. "Well, sure, you're welcome to join us. But will the 3 kids around you join us too?" "Well, they are joining too. This is my daughter Ultia, and these 2 are my apprentices Leo and Gray." Ultia pulled behind her and introduced her to Makarov. Ultia said sweetly, "Hello, Grandpa," and Makarov said with a smile, "Hello, Ultia too." Then, all turned around and pulled Leo and Gray, who were looking around in the guild, over to Makarov, and they also greeted politely. Makarov was delighted to see so many people joining, especially Ultia. "Okay, let's start the banquet, the welcome party begins." Makarov jumped onto the counter and shouted loudly. The atmosphere of the guild was instantly ignited, everyone became excited, and everyone enthusiastically devoted themselves to the preparations for the banquet. "Wooloo, this guild is a bit noisy. If you are not used to it, you can sit at the table over there," Gildarts explained to Wooloo with a smile, while pointing to a table in the corner of the guild. "Well, thank you, but I can feel their mood, this guild is great." Wooloo shook her head and looked at the smiles on everyone's faces in the guild. Although the guild was noisy, she didn't think there was anything wrong with it. In this guild, it must be full of joy. "Hey, Gildarts, good job, how did you convince Ulu to join?" Seeing Ulu surrounded by other guild members, Makarov was very happy to have a strong person like Ulu join the guild. "Well, of course it's my personality." Gildarts laughed loudly and boasted to Makarov. "Forget it." Makarov glanced at Gildarts with disdain. Her daughter is not in good health, so she wants to ask Polyusica to take a look. She also wants to join the guild to live here. Gildarts's expression became serious. Well, I'll talk to Polyusica later. Makarov nodded deeply, indicating that he understood. Everyone warmly welcomed Ulu's joining, and then Ulu was constantly asked questions by members of the guild. After all, she is a famous wizard, and her ability is enough to match the title of Holy Ten. Only Makarov has the title of Holy Ten in the guild. Gildarts was rated as a dangerous person by the council because he often destroyed things. In addition, those council members did not want multiple Holy Tens in a guild, worried that it would affect the balance, and Gildarts did not care about those false names, so Gildarts did not enter the Holy Ten. After Ulu introduced everyone to each other, she led Ulusia to sit at the table over there. She was mainly worried that Ulusia would not adapt to this environment. Leo and Gray had already played with other members of the guild and played there to their heart's content. After Ulu and Ulusia sat down, Ulu breathed a sigh of relief. It was really too enthusiastic. A figure at the counter came over with a glass of wine and a glass of juice and handed them to. Hello, Erlu and Oltaire, welcome to join Fairy Tale. Thank you, who are you? My name is Leila Sloan. Chapter 34. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hello, Leila. Wooloo greeted Leila enthusiastically after hearing her introduction. Well, my magic is ancient scripture magic, so I can also collect intelligence. Over there is my room. If you have something you want to know, you can come and ask me. Leila said to Wooloo in a friendly manner, and then pointed to her intelligence room. Okay, I understand. Wooloo looked in the direction Leila pointed and nodded to show that she understood. Okay, I won't bother you anymore. After Leila met Ulu, she turned around and left, leaving them some space to be alone. However, before leaving, she glanced at Ultia who was sitting quietly next to Ulu, and then went to find Lidas. After Ultia felt Leila's gaze, she couldn't help but feel a little confused. She didn't know why she felt that Leila's gaze was a little strange. Ulu also stared at Leila's departing back, thoughtfully. At this time, Lidas was looking at everyone in the guild and creating. Leila walked over and talked and laughed with Lidas. Since they both liked to record every bit of everyone in the guild, the two sometimes exchanged some paintings and photos, so they gradually became familiar with each other. At this moment, Kana bounced towards Ulu, with a faint smile on her face. Kana first greeted Ulu, and then cast her eyes on Ultia. Ultia raised her head and her eyes met Kana's, and both of them flashed curiosity about each other in their eyes. Kana took the initiative to say, "Hello, Ultia, I'm Kana." Ultia nodded slightly, a smile spread across her face, and she replied, "Well, hello, Kana." Then, the two began a friendly exchange, asking each other some basic questions, and the atmosphere gradually became relaxed and pleasant. The topic of the two gradually unfolded, and then, like a pair of good sisters, Kana took out the cards and taught Ultia to play some card games. Ulu sat quietly aside, watching them, and the worries in her heart gradually dissipated. After the banquet, Makarov found Ulu. He talked to Ulu about Ulu and said that he would take them to find Polyusica tomorrow. After expressing her gratitude, Ulu was about to leave, but Makarov stopped her and asked if she was willing to live in the girls' dormitory of the guild. Ulu asked Makarov about the rent of the girls' dormitory and whether there were boys' dormitories, and got after hearing Makarov's answer. Ulu politely declined. She still had some savings, and Leo and Gray needed to live in the house, so Ulu took Ulusia, Leo and Gray to find a house to live in. The next day, under the leadership of Makarov, Ulu and Ulusia came to the cabin where Polyusica lived deep in the east forest. Makarov turned around and asked Ulu to wait a moment, then climbed the steps, reached out and knocked gently on the door. Crisp footsteps came from the house, and Polyusica opened the door. She glanced at Makarov, then looked back and found Ulu and her daughter standing behind Makarov. Her eyes were tightly locked on Ulusia, and then she glanced at Makarov. "Can you help this child take a look at his body?" Makarov's expression was serious. "Come in." Polyusica looked at Ultia carefully, then turned and walked into the house. Walking into the wooden house, the house was neat and tidy, spotless, and every corner exuded an atmosphere of tranquility and harmony. Polyusica walked to the desk and said without turning his head, "Sit on the bed over there." Okay. Ulu responded softly, leading Eulogia to sit down by the bed. After seeing Eulogia sitting down, Polyusica came to sit beside her and carefully checked Eulogia's physical condition. After roughly understanding the situation, she turned back to the table and began to prepare magic potions. After waiting for a while, Polyusica handed the potion to Eulogia and told her to drink it. Then she explained to Ulu, "This child's body seems to be forcibly injected with extremely powerful magic power, but she can't use it herself, causing the body to be overloaded. This bottle of potion can effectively relieve the symptoms. I will prepare some potions for her to take once every 3 days. However, these magic powers still cannot be eliminated and will take a long time to slowly transform." Then Polyusica took another magic book from the bookshelf, handed it to Ulu, and said, "If possible, this magic book will help her treatment and let her learn it." Ulu took the magic book and thanked Polyusica. When she saw the name Arc of Time on the book, she couldn't help but wonder, what kind of magic is this? Polyusica seemed to remember something and added, "By the way, don't let her learn the magic recorded in the last few pages of this magic book." Eulogia nodded heavily when she heard this, indicating that she understood. After Eulogia drank the magic potion, a strong sense of sleepiness came over her like a tide, and she lay on the bed and fell asleep. This is normal, and her mental burden is also very heavy. Ulu was about to ask, and Polyusica took the initiative to explain Eulogia's situation. Then, Polyusica continued to use the magic instrument on the table to make a month's worth of potions, put them into a bag, handed it to Ulu, and then urged them to leave. Makarov stepped forward and took the bag of potions, while Ulu carefully picked up Eulogia, bowed deeply to thank her, and then turned and left the wooden house. After the two left, the door was closed, and Polyusica stood quietly at the window, watching their backs as they went away, his eyes firmly fixed on Eulogia, with a trace of heartache in his eyes. "That magic book, Polyusica, I have read it carefully and did not find anything unusual. However, the content of the last few pages is indeed, as the man said, extremely dangerous. Those pages record in detail a magic called the End of Time. A few days ago, Polyusica met a mysterious masked man. To be precise, the man was waiting for her. Polyusica did not know his purpose, he did not say much, just threw the book down and told her to keep the magic book. Later, Makarov brought a child to her for treatment and gave the book to the child for her to learn. Polyusica did not accept it at first, but the man said, "Grandly of Edras, I have no ill intentions." She was stunned for a moment. The masked man turned and left after he finished speaking, leaving Polyusica, whose identity was exposed, standing there. After the man left, Polyusica slowly walked to the magic book, picked it up, and took it back to her wooden house. In the past few days, after carefully checking the contents of the magic book, she put it on the bookshelf. "Thank you, President." Ulu looked at Makarov, who was carrying a bag beside him, and his gratitude was beyond words. "You're welcome. Now that we've joined the guild, we're all one family." Makarov smiled and continued to walk forward. "Yeah." Ulu nodded slightly. Chapter 35. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Arc of Time. Never heard of it. Makarov leaned forward and looked at it carefully. "What about you, Gildarts?" Ulu turned to look at Gildarts and asked. "I don't know, call Leila over." Gildarts held his chin with his hand and shook his head. After Ulu settled Ultia at home, he brought the magic book to the guild and called Gildarts and Makarov. The three of them sat around the table with the magic book in the middle. Both of them knew nothing about this magic. After listening to Gildarts' advice, Ulu went to the intelligence room to find Leila. "What's wrong? Is there anything wrong?" "Wulu." Leila looked at Wulu as she walked in, not knowing why. "Leila, can you help me find some information about this magic?" Wulu asked directly. "Leila, come over here and take a look." Gildarts and Makarov called to Leila from across the table. "Good." Leila stood up and followed Wulu to the table. "How about it, do you know this magic?" Gildarts pointed at the magic book on the table and asked Leila. "The Arc of Time." Leila picked up the magic book and exclaimed. Oh. Did you know? Gildas saw Leila was so surprised, obviously he knew something. I do know that this magic is the same as my Ark of Manifestation, both are lost magic. Oh, Wooloo, I can also use the Ark of Manifestation, which is also a lost magic. Leila introduced to Wooloo, and then continued to explain this magic to them. The idle members in the guild tavern also gathered around, stood behind Leila, and listened to him quietly. After all, the rare magic that even the three big guys in the guild didn't know about had a huge appeal to them. This Ark of Time is rarer than my Ark of Manifestation, and more difficult to perform. As its name suggests, this is a kind of time magic that can make things return to the past or push them to the future, but it is ineffective for creatures other than plants. It is said that this magic is incomplete, so it is considered a lost magic that has been forgotten in ancient times. Where did you get this magic book? I have been searching for it but couldn't find it. It is very rare and can be called a treasure. My ancient magic book only has a few brief introductions to it and does not include this magic. The specific magic learning should be recorded in this book. After Leila finished speaking, Gildarts and the other three had their own thoughts, and the other people in the guild couldn't help but sigh. Gildarts wondered how powerful this magic was, and he was eager to see more powerful magic. Makarov was thinking, if this magic is learned, the guild's items can be restored to their original state over time, so a lot of money can be saved, and the guild can be decorated well later. Ulu was thinking, this magic is indeed very beneficial to Ultia's current situation, and a lot of magic power is required, which Ultia just meets. Although it is difficult to learn, I don't know if she can learn it. The key is that no one teaches her. Hey. What are you thinking about? How did you find this book? Leila stretched out her hand and waved it in front of the three of them, interrupting their thoughts. Oh, this book was given to Ultia by Polyuzica. Makarov replied. Granny Polyuzica. She is busy sorting out medical books every day, but she has such a rare magic book. Leila was very puzzled. I don't know. I'll find some time to ask her about the origin of this magic book. Makarov also felt that it was a bit suspicious, so he decided to ask her tomorrow. Well, that's all I know. As for how to learn this magic, I have no idea. After all, few people know about this magic nowadays, let alone learn it. Leila said helplessly. Well, let's keep this magic book first. I'll take it back and let Ultia see if I can learn it by myself. That's right. There is someone who must know this magic, maybe I can ask her for you. Leila suddenly thought of someone. With her extensive knowledge, she must know this magic, and maybe she could get more information by asking her. Who? Ulu, Gildarts, and Makarov asked in unison. Leila said nothing, but stared at Makarov with a meaningful look. Oh. Indeed, if it was your sister, she might know. Makarov was a little confused when he saw this, but then he suddenly realized something and thought of someone. He almost said something wrong when he was about to speak, so he changed his words and turned the conversation to Leila. Your sister. Ulu and Gildart stared at Leila in astonishment. Ulu didn't know much about Leila's specific situation, so she was naturally a little confused. Gildarts had never heard that Leila had a sister, and his expression was extremely shocked. Well, I was taken in by my grandfather. I have an older sister. My grandfather and my sister went on a trip and entrusted me to the old man. Leila briefly explained her relationship with them. My sister, although her magic power is not strong, she reads a lot. She is simply a mobile all-knowing library. Although my super ancient book magic is convenient and can give a general understanding of some magic, she has read all of it carefully and memorized it in her mind. Leila explained to Ulu and Gildarts. I'll go back and ask her tonight. Leila said to Ulu. Then you can take this book back, Leila. Ulu handed the magic book to Leila. Okay. Leila took it. At night, Leila left the guild and returned home. He walked into the room and took a communication magic crystal from the upper right corner of the bookshelf. This magic crystal was left by Augustus when he left. Leila usually chatted with Augustus and Mavis through it, and Augustus and Mavis would also send back some photos and letters during their travels. Leila opened the communication magic crystal and established a connection with the other end. Mavis' figure immediately appeared in the magic crystal. "Leila, what's wrong?" Mavis waved her hand and asked with a smile. "Sister, do you know the Arc of Time?" Leila asked. The reason why Leila called her sister so naturally was because after Leila called her sister before, Mavis agreed with this name and told Leila that the first generation was not nice, and she was only in her 20s. Leila told Mavis everything that happened today, and then placed the magic book Arc of Time in front of the magic crystal. Mavis knew something about this magic, but she couldn't be said to be proficient in it. The Arc of Time was created by a descendant of the god of Time who broke a taboo in the village and was driven out. After traveling all the way, she created this magic, and this magic was rarely recorded. She recorded some details in the autobiography of another author of time magic, and no one knew what happened later. After the incident, the wizard disappeared in the long river of time, and her magic book was nowhere to be found. Regarding learning this magic, her advice is to first get in touch with other time-related magic, and after mastering those relatively simple time magics, then learn the Arc of Time, so that you can apply what you have learned to other similar situations. Leila said that she would convey it to Ulu tomorrow, but Mavis suddenly warned Leila with a serious face that she must never learn a forbidden magic in the Arc of Time. That magic is extremely dangerous and is called the End of Time. Then, Mavis told Leila in detail about the dangers of this magic, and repeatedly told Leila to pay great attention to it. Leila said that she had kept it in mind, then said goodbye to Mavis and hung up the connection of the communication magic crystal. "Mother, what did Leila say?" "Nothing, he asked me how to learn the magic of the Arc of Time." He wants to learn this magic again?" "No, it's a girl from the guild who wants to learn." "Oh, does this kid still know the principle of biting off more than he can chew?" Mavis didn't say much, just glanced at Auguste. "I'm different." Chapter 36. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Well, that's the situation. Leila conveyed to Wooloo in detail what Mavis had said to him last night. "So, I need to buy some other types of time magic now, right?" Wooloo lowered her head and thought. "Well, that's not necessary. I can transfer most of it directly to Ultia, and the rest can be dealt with when needed." Leila thought, Sister Lei's own talent is enough. "That's really troublesome for you, Leila," Wooloo said embarrassedly. "But I want to learn Mom's magic." Ultia stood quietly aside and said softly, but her tone was very firm. When Leila saw Ultia's look, she was startled. She did not ask for Ultia's opinion. Perhaps it was based on the consideration that she could learn this magic in the original plot, but ignored Ultia's own feelings. When Tulu heard Ultia's words, her eyes were a little moist and her heart was warm. She squatted down, took Ultia's little hand, and said gently, "Ultia, Mom just hopes that you can be safe and sound. You don't need to learn Mom's magic. When you master this time magic and your health improves, you can also learn Wooloo's magic, just like me, and master 2 kinds of magic." Leila also echoed. "All right then." Ultia listened to her mother's consolation and Leila's reminder. Although she felt a little disappointed, she still accepted the suggestion. Leila activated the ancient script magic, and a huge screen suddenly appeared in the entire guild. At the same time, he searched for all the information related to time magic. Then, he condensed a small part of it into a small ball and transmitted it into Ultia's brain, because he was worried that transmitting too much information would bring some burden to the brain. "Well, if you want to learn more, you can always come to me." "Thank you, Leila." Wooloo looked at Ultia, who closed her eyes and was digesting the transmitted magic knowledge, and then solemnly thanked Leila. "You're welcome, Wooloo." Leila touched the back of his head. During the time when Eulucia was digesting the knowledge, Wooloo had always been with her, and Leila sat quietly by her side, gently opening the Arc of Time. He was ready to integrate the secrets of this magic book into his own ancient book magic. "This process may take some time, Wooloo, please wait a moment." "Yes." Leila took advantage of this opportunity to ask for Wooloo's consent and recorded the arc of time into her own ancient writing magic. After recording, she closed the book and returned it to Wooloo, and then waited silently for Ultia. Using ancient writing magic to transmit knowledge is certainly much more convenient, but it also has certain limitations. Everyone's mental endurance is different. Once there is too much knowledge, it may lead to overload. At present, Ultia is in good condition. When Ultia completely digested it, she opened her eyes, and a glimmer of light flashed in her eyes. "How is it? How do you feel?" When Wooloo saw Wuludia wake up, he looked at her with concern and asked. "These magics seem quite easy." Ultair casually expressed her experience. "Easy?" When Wooloo heard these two words, she showed an expression of disbelief. It seems that Ultia's talent is indeed extraordinary. President Makarov walked behind Ultia from the gate and interrupted. "President, when did you come back?" Wooloo and Leila looked at Makarov in surprise. "Just came back." For Ultair, learning this magic is definitely a piece of cake. Makarov looked at Ultair with a look of certainty. "Well, thank you, Grandpa President." Makarov laughed a few times, and then said to Wooloo, "Wooloo, come with me, I have something to discuss with you." Makarov did not explain too much, said a word to Wooloo and walked towards the room. "Okay, President." Wooloo knew that Makarov had come back from Polyusica, and understood that he might have found out something important. Wooloo followed Makarov into the room, only to see Makarov sitting on a chair beside her, and then told her everything that had happened. "What impression do you have of this person?" That Wooloo couldn't help but murmur, "Another masked man. How could it be such a coincidence? He must be in the same group with them, why would he do this?" "Leila, this is not good, is it?" "It's okay, we were listening openly, they were talking too loudly and we overheard it accidentally." At this time, Leila was outside the house, holding the door furtively, leaning sideways, with her ear pressed against the door, looking obscene. Ultia on the side was still a little restrained, and whispered to Leila, "But, your actions." "Hush, don't talk, there seems to be no sound inside." Leila whispered to stop Ultia, asking her to be quiet, while she held her breath and listened carefully to the movement in the room. "It's getting dangerous, run away." Leila instantly grabbed Ultia's hand, and the two of them disappeared like ghosts. At the same time, after Leila and the others disappeared, the door of the room was opened. Makarov stuck his head out, looked around vigilantly, and found nothing unusual, so he closed the door again. Afterwards, Ultia told Makarov everything that happened along the way, and also expressed some of his own guesses. The two had a heated discussion in the room. In the intelligence room, Leila was panting, taking deep breaths, and patting her chest constantly. She said with lingering fear, "I was almost discovered, fortunately I ran fast." "Leila, what kind of magic was that just now?" Ultia's attention was completely focused on the magic Leila used. She asked curiously. "Teleport, the old man was about to open the door just now, but I was startled." Leila calmed down and replied, "And also complained by the way." "How many other magics have you learned?" Ultair asked. "Not much, but I did learn a lot of simple magic, such as telepathy." Leila said nonchalantly. "By the way, if you want to learn magic, I can recommend a good place for you." Leila suddenly remembered something. "Okay, but you won't eavesdrop anymore?" Ultia asked doubtfully. "There's nothing we can do. The old man must have been alert this time. He has probably set up a barrier so we can't possibly hear anything." Leila shook her head helplessly. Leila took Ultia's hand and walked out of the room. After briefly greeting Mikhail and Wakaba, she teleported away with Ultia. At this moment, Ultia was telling Makarov about her experiences along the way in detail. "President, we know nothing about their identities, not even their purpose. Let's continue discussing this matter after Gildarts comes over." Makarov responded calmly. The two then walked out of the room and began to inspect the guild. However, they found that Leila and Ultair were not in the guild, and the two who were about to go to the intelligence room were suddenly interrupted. Mikhail and Wakaba noticed it, and then told the president and Ulu where Leila was. President, Ulu, Leila took Altair to the East Forest. At this time in the East Forest, Gildarts was grilling fish leisurely, while Laxus and Kana were fighting fiercely with magic. Leila stood aside, watching Gildarts grilling fish. Ulu sat quietly on a stone beside, sometimes concentrating on watching the exciting duel between the two, and sometimes turning his attention to Gildarts grilling fish. Laxus dodged Kana's intensive card attacks with ease, occasionally sending a lightning attack to Kana, but these attacks were easily avoided by Kana. Gildarts glanced at this scene and nodded with satisfaction. Before Laxus and Kana fought, Gildarts had warned Laxus to be careful. His eyes were full of threats, and he stared at Laxus. Chapter 37. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gildarts, are you able to do this? Don't burn the fish. Leila stared at Gildarts beside the grilled fish, her face full of doubt. I have been fishing here for more than 20 years, and I always grill the fish on the spot. My skills have been tested. Gildas's face was full of confidence, and he calmly stated the fact. But the grilled fish you made before was really disappointing, and I heard that people who cook bad food will always cook bad food. Leila curled her lips, showing a look of distrust. Don't talk. I'm serious this time, just wait. Gildarts had a look on his head, but seeing Kana beside him, he held back and just glared at Leila fiercely. Okay, let me see your performance. Leila reluctantly stretched out her hand to show her agreement, but she still muttered softly, I'd better catch another one. After all, he and Laxus had tasted the fish made by Gildarts before and vomited on the spot. The taste was simply indescribable. Although Leila's muttering was very small, Gildarts still heard it. He curled his lips in disdain and secretly competed in his heart. However, when Leila caught a fish, he waved his hand and summoned the chef team, and started to grill the fish on the spot. Seeing this, Gildarts on the side widened his eyes and roared, Smelly boy, you are cheating. My own cooking is terrible, so I can't ask for help. Leila responded confidently, with a proud look on her face. You. Gildarts was so angry that he was speechless. Uncle, don't say I didn't warn you. When Kana smells the fragrance of my fish, she will definitely come to eat it. You can digest it yourself if you roast it. Gildarts snorted coldly and ignored the shameless Leila. Kana, come and try the grilled fish that Dad made. Gildarts shouted loudly, and at the same time stopped the two people who were fighting. Hey! Leila shuddered and got goosebumps. Leila muttered to herself, this uncle becomes abnormal when he touches Kana, his voice is full of flattery, why is his setting so strange? Gildarts's grilled fish is already cooked, but Leila's side is still being processed. It feels like a big meal, with all kinds of seasoning plates, grills, complete equipment, and professional chefs. Anyone can tell which side is better at a glance. Kana came over, and Gildarts immediately picked up a small piece of fish with chopsticks, put his left hand under the fish to prevent it from falling, and then sent the fish to Kana's mouth. Ah! Kana opened her mouth slightly, swallowed the fish meat, chewed it twice and swallowed it. Kana couldn't help but praise, well, it's delicious. Then she looked at Leila with a puzzled look. What? Impossible. Leila rushed to Kana and tried to grab the chopsticks from Gildarts's hand and try it herself, but Gildarts dodged. Use your own chopsticks. Gildarts stared at Leila with hostility in his eyes. Leila immediately turned back to the table, took a pair of chopsticks, picked up a piece of fish and put it in her mouth. What's going on? Leila looked suspicious, but couldn't help chewing. Ha, this is my true level. Impossible, the grilled fish you made before was simply inedible, how is this possible? Humph, in order to make Kana feast on a delicious meal, I have studied cooking skills for a long time. Do you think I have nothing to do all day? Damn it! Leila's face was full of indignation. Laxus ignored the argument between the two, snatched Leila's chopsticks and took a bite of fish, then took Kana, who looked confused, to the dining table, took the tableware and set it, then put the grilled fish on the table, ready to feast on it. Wait, Laxus, why did you take the grilled fish? You two are too fake. As soon as Laxus finished speaking, the two of them became stiff in an instant. Gildarts, I told you that your acting is not good. Nonsense, it was obviously you who exposed the truth. Seeing the two still arguing, Laxus warmly invited Kana and Altair to enjoy the food, because he knew that Gildarts did a pretty good job. Gildarts had already found Leila before, and asked her to use magic to materialize a chef, and then humbly asked for the method of making grilled fish. Gildarts was holding a small notebook, recording the steps and key points very carefully. After trying more than a dozen fish, he finally made the ideal taste, just waiting to show his skills today. Not only that, he also hired Leila to act as an actor. Laxus felt that all this was too obvious. First, because the fish Gildarts made before was really unpalatable, he would not give the fish he made to Kana to eat. Wouldn't that be self-destructive? Second, because the behavior of the two of them was really weird, and finally, the grilled fish Gildarts made this time tasted very similar to Leila's. He often eats it, which is easy to taste. After Laxus explained all this to Kana, Kana suddenly realized it. Then, she looked at the two people who were still arguing about whose fault it was. Dad, come and eat, the fish will be cold and not tasty. Kana's words went straight through Gildarts' heart. Oh, okay, I'm here. Gildarts immediately gave up the argument with Leila, turned around and walked to the dining table, sitting next to Kana. What a face. Leila muttered quietly and walked to the table and sat down. At the same time, Leila's grilled fish was ready and served, and the chefs left. Laxus and Leila were fighting for a large piece of fish, while Gildarts was whispering to Kana and kept picking up fish for Kana. Altair sat there quietly, staring blankly at this warm scene, feeling very warm in her heart. Here, Altia, eat more. Leila snatched the big piece of fish from Laxus's chopsticks and put it on Altia's plate. Well, thank you, Leila. Altia smiled at Leila and said sincerely. Well, you're welcome. Leila stared at Altia's smile and froze in place for a moment. That smile was deeply imprinted in his mind and he would never forget it in his life. What are you doing? Can I join in? Wooloo's voice came from not far away. Mom. Wooloo. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and saw Wooloo coming. Mom, come quickly, this grilled fish is delicious. Altia just picked up a piece of grilled fish, tasted it, and turned around to hear Wooloo's voice, and shouted happily to Wooloo. Okay. Wooloo smiled and sat down on the right side of Altia. Seeing this, Leila materialized a set of tableware in time and placed it in front of Wooloo, and then everyone enjoyed the delicious grilled fish. After the dinner, everyone started this afternoon's training. Gildarts watched Kana fighting with Laxus, and Wooloo patiently watched Altia use her newly learned simple time magic. Leila lay leisurely on the grass to rest. He hadn't been so comfortable for a long time. However, this comfort did not last long, and he was called by Laxus. It turned out that it was time to change shifts, and he would accompany Kana to train next. I haven't rested enough. Leila sighed. Chapter 38. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kana, attack faster. Leila gripped the hilt of the magic sword tightly with her right hand and took a step back flexibly to avoid Kana's card attack, and then dodged the fireball released from the card again. Kana held the cards in her left hand, and quickly pulled out a few cards with her right hand, flying towards Leila. Gradually, Kana felt exhausted and her body was shaking. Leila noticed it and quickly stepped forward, cut off the cards one by one, and attacked Kana again. Kana staggered back and fell to the ground. Leila arrived beside Kana and helped Kana up. Then, the magic sword disappeared in Leila's hand. Kana, take a break. Well, okay. Gildarts ran over quickly, pulled Kana to sit on a chair beside him, then picked up the teapot on the table, poured black tea into Kana's cup, and handed it to Kana. Kana took the cup a little embarrassedly and said, I'll do it myself, Dad. She already felt that Gildarts was getting more and more clingy. Leila also sat down opposite Kana, poured herself a cup of tea, sniffed the tea, took a sip after waking up, savored the fragrance of the tea, and put down the cup. Kana, what do you think about your cards? Leila looked at Kana and asked casually. Kana was stunned when she heard this sudden question. You should be able to feel that although your card magic is comprehensive, you lack powerful cards, which is a big weakness. For ordinary wizards, you may be able to cope with it, but facing a strong man like the uncle, you have no way to deal with it. Leila has been thinking that although Kana in the original work is also very powerful, she is not ranked among the stronger members of the guild, except for the fact that the first generation lent her the light of the fairy in the later period, giving her a trick. There does not seem to be much room for improvement in the card aspect. Therefore, Kana needs to learn more about cards and learn to make cards by herself. Kana is still buying basic cards in the store now, but in the later period, she must learn to make a deck that suits her. Therefore, you must learn to make cards, and then build a set of weak cards according to the characteristics of each of us, so as to face the various enemies that will appear in the future. Leila stared at Kana, who was lost in thought. Okay, I understand. Kana looked thoughtful. Apparently, she had already realized the inadequacy of her card magic during the battle with Leila and Laxus. Leila's words pointed out a way for Kana to improve her card magic. Kana, don't be anxious, take your time and take a rest first. Gildart said softly. Okay. Kana was indeed a little tired. The battle with Leila and Laxus had consumed a lot of her energy. Leila, let's have a fight. Laxus shouted to Leila. Huh? I don't. I see that you seem to be in a bad state recently. Did you make a mistake when learning a certain magic? Laxus deliberately emphasized the word certain and looked at Leila with sharp eyes. No, then be gentle. Leila knew she couldn't escape, so she had to agree. The two stood up from the table and walked to the open space beside them. In a blink of an eye, they were ready to start a fierce battle. Kana, watch carefully, I will give you a practical lesson. Leila said to Kana on the side, motioning Kana to watch carefully. The battle was about to break out, and neither of them hesitated at all. In an instant, Laxus rushed towards Leila like an arrow from a bow, and Leila quickly dodged. With a flip of his right hand, a card appeared in his hand and then flew towards Laxus. Laxus was slightly stunned. He finally understood what Leila meant by teaching, but he did not take it lightly. He knew Leila's strength very well. Then, he cautiously stepped aside and kept a distance from the card. After waiting for a while, no abnormality was found, and Leila's figure had already appeared behind Laxus, and a card was quietly placed behind Laxus. The fate of summoning thunder. Several lightning bolts struck Laxus' body fiercely, stirring up a puff of smoke. In the smoke, a hand quickly pulled out like lightning and grabbed Leila's collar. Leila, how could you use lightning to attack me? Laxus said. As the smoke around him dissipated, he opened his mouth slightly and sucked the lightning into his mouth, turning it into magic power in his body. However, Laxus only saw the corners of Leila's mouth slightly raised. Magician's illusion. This Leila was just a clone. At his command, the clone dissipated, leaving only 2 cards. At the same time, a dazzling sun flashed, accompanied by another puff of smoke. Laxus came to his senses, and he quickly turned into lightning, trying to distance himself. But in his haste, he was still tricked and inhaled a small amount of smoke. He felt weak all over. The smoke contained an anesthetic effect. He first used thunder to attract and lower Laxus's vigilance, then used the card clone to confuse him, and finally used the sun's radiance and the fool's temperance to make Laxus suffer a great loss. Gildarts looked at Leila's sneaky figure in the distance, analyzing the layout step by step, and explaining it to Kana at the same time. So amazing. It feels like Leila's magic power is the same as mine, but she can fight Laxus on par. Kana listened to Gildarts's explanation while looking at Leila in surprise, her eyes full of admiration. Don't worry, just keep watching, Laxus is just testing you. Gildart said calmly. Hey, Laxus, are you awake? Leila shouted from a distant open space. Laxus did not answer. After his eyes adjusted and he was able to open them, he launched another lightning attack in the direction of Laxus, who quickly dodged. Laxus, why don't you dare to attack me closely? Are you afraid of my clone? At this time, a figure of Leila appeared next to a tree behind Laxus. Hey, Leila, you are such a wicked person. Laxus finally couldn't help but said praise to Leila. Who are you going to fight this time? Leila raised her lips, gladly accepting the compliment, then looked at Laxus with ill intent and asked with a smile. The roar of the thunder dragon. Laxus roared and shot at Leila standing in the open space. This time, Leila did not dodge because the roar was too fast and he had no time to react. The figure disappeared in an instant, leaving only 2 cards, falling alone on the ground. Seeing this, Laxus roared at Leila standing under the tree on the other side. Unfortunately, this time Leila noticed his intention in advance and dodged easily. The roar went straight through the tree, leaving a deep hole. So cautious. Why don't you take the initiative to attack? Leila saw Laxus still standing there, and sighed in her heart. It was obvious that Laxus would not be fooled again. Humph. Laxus snorted coldly. He originally thought that Leila could easily win by using Kana's card, but he didn't expect that he still underestimated Leila's insidiousness and cunningness. Well, then, if you don't come, I'll go find you. Leila spread her hands and said helplessly. As soon as she finished speaking, 5 or 6 Leilas suddenly appeared around and rushed towards Laxus. Laxus saw a group of Leilas rushing towards him, gathered lightning in his fists, and then smashed it to the ground with all his strength. Thunder Dragon Jaws, with a loud bang, powerful lightning burst out all around, defeating Leila's clones one by one. At the same time, Leila noticed the power of this attack and released the magic power of the card in advance. Thick smoke instantly filled the surroundings, but Laxus turned into a flash of lightning, soared into the sky, quickly escaped the encirclement, and then rushed straight to Leila who was standing in the distance and did not move forward. Thunder Dragon's collapse fist, a golden magic circle flashed in front of Laxus's right hand. Taking advantage of the momentum, he continuously accumulated the lightning in his fist, and then released it, hitting Leila fiercely. Leila did not dodge the attack, and let out a scream, and then disappeared like smoke. What? Another clone? Laxus shouted in surprise. Just as he was about to step back, Leila appeared from behind Laxus, raised her hand, and shot a card at Laxus. The Queen's Forest, dense forests grew around Laxus, and the trees tied Laxus tightly with vines. When the clones just dispersed, 3 cards fell. Fountain of Prayer. Icicles of Death. Temperance of Fools. 3 magics were released in succession. From the fountain card, countless water whips were summoned, spreading outward from the card, and then freezing Laxus. Paralyzing smoke filled the air. Seeing Laxus frozen, without any hesitation, Laxus casually manifested a large number of cards, and regardless of anything, all kinds of magic were shot wildly towards Laxus' position like a storm. After a while, Laxus suddenly broke through the ice, roared, blew away all the magic around him, and then ran towards Leila's position, vowing to punch him. Stop! I give up! Leila shouted loudly, and quickly ran to Gildarts and hid behind him. Why are you admitting defeat? I haven't even touched you yet. Laxus was holding back a grudge. I have no magic power left. The attack just now has exhausted my magic power. I won't fight anymore. Leila said confidently. You, humph. Laxus had no choice but to suppress his anger and gradually calm down. Chapter 39. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Kana, how do you feel? Leila looked at Kana with a proud face. Leila, you are amazing. You can fight Laxus to this extent with just these card magics. Kana looked at Leila with admiration in her eyes. Humph. Laxus looked disdainful. Laxus is so strong, he was fine throughout the whole battle. Kana looked at Laxus and was full of praise. Well, it's just a so-so. Laxus accepted Kana's praise with pleasure and responded modestly. After witnessing Leila's actual combat teaching, Kana seemed to have been enlightened, and eagerly asked Leila about many details of the operations in the battle and the overall layout. Seeing Kana in this state, Gildarts thought to himself, although this can greatly improve Kana's combat ability and actual combat experience, will she learn too much from Leila? Leila is playing too dirty, and Laxus is almost furious. While thinking, Gildarts cast his eyes on Leila, who was sharing all kinds of disgusting routines with Kana. Kana, next time you make a move, don't report the move at the end, or deliberately report it wrong, so that the opponent will mistake it for other magic and make a wrong judgment. Although this is a small detail, in a battle, a small mistake is enough to turn the tide. Think about it, next time you fight Laxus, you say you're going to use Fate of Thunder summoning, but you actually release a fireball. Do you think Laxus will open his mouth to eat the fireball? Leila was like a devil, frantically inputting all kinds of insidious moves into Kana's mind. Kana stood aside and nodded frequently, memorizing these moves in her heart, and her eyes would light up from time to time. Laxus heard the two people conspiring loudly on the side, and black lines appeared on his forehead. He cursed in his heart, can't these two people discuss in a low voice? And they are talking so loudly in front of me. Leila, let's have a battle, you use the cards. Gildarts couldn't help interrupting Leila when he heard her words becoming more and more outrageous. No, uncle, I won't bother you anymore. If you take action, how can I have a chance to play the card? When Leila heard Gildarts' voice, her body instantly stiffened and she was sweating profusely. Kana, you must keep improving your magic power. Magic power is like a spring, it is inexhaustible. The deeper your magic power is, the sharper your magic attack will be like a sword, and it will be indestructible. This is the most important thing. Gildarts said earnestly. Well, I understand, Dad. Kana nodded heavily. Well, Kana, if you want to learn how to make cards, I can impart the knowledge directly to you. Leila also said to Kana. Okay. Kana replied with great interest. Leila immediately cast the ancient script magic to transmit the card-making method to Kana. The progress bar above Kana's head grew rapidly and the transmission was completed in a short time. Kana had already stored this knowledge in her mind. Next, she needed to slowly learn and integrate it by herself. Leila's fighting talent is indeed amazing. Ulu took Ultia to Leila's side. Before that, Ulu saw that Ultia had gradually mastered other simple time magic, so he took her to the cabin, wanting Ultia to try to learn the Arc of Time. Also because the battle scene was too noisy, Leila suggested to Ulu that she take Ultia to the cabin, where there was a magic barrier he set up, which not only blocked the noisy sounds from the outside world, but also the environment inside the house was quite good. In the cabin, Ulu silently watched Ultia constantly flipping through the magic book of the Arc of Time. Ultia gradually immersed herself in it, and seemed to forget everything around her. There was only this magic book in her eyes, and the contents of the book were also deeply imprinted in Ultia's mind. In the sea. Ultia suddenly turned to the next few pages and found that these pages did not record the learning method of the Arc of Time. Instead, it wrote a magic called the End of Time. Ulu found this scene and warned Ultia seriously that she must not learn this magic. Ultia was puzzled and asked Ulu the reason. Ulu conveyed Leila's explanation at the time to her, and repeatedly reminded Ultia. Ulutia understood the danger, agreed, and stopped watching. Afterwards, Ulu took Ultia out of the cabin, and at the same time saw Leila use Kana's card magic to perfection, and was not inferior to Laxus in the fight. Then, seeing Leila transmitting some knowledge to Kana, he waited for a while before approaching Leila and talking to him. No, it's just a little bit. Leila waved her hand and said modestly, but the smug look on her face was revealed. Then we have something to do, so we will leave first. I need to buy something for Ultia. Ultia said. Okay, bye. By the way, Gildarts, tomorrow morning, the president wants to discuss something with you. After walking for a while, Ulu suddenly turned back and said to Gildarts. Okay. Gildarts was stunned for a moment and responded. It's getting late, we should go back. Gildarts looked at Laxus and Leila and said. Bye, Leila, Laxus. Kana held Gildarts with one hand and waved to the two with the other. Okay, see you tomorrow, uncle. Leila and Laxus replied. The two looked at the people going away, and Leila sat down immediately, slumping in the chair like a deflated ball. Seeing this, Laxus sat opposite Leila and said, "Everyone has left, it's time for you to say something." "What did you say?" Leila asked back listlessly. "You are still pretending. I don't remember you having so little magic power. Where did your thought body go?" Laxus laughed angrily. "Oh, I told you not to do it, but now you've exposed yourself. I used Kana's magic to try to hide my magic power, but you still managed to detect it. No, it's mainly because you seem to be avoiding me. I was just testing you. Magic can be hidden, but your reaction is exposed. So, what about your thought body? I let him do other things. Is it dangerous? You should know that if the thought body dies, your magic power will never come back. I know what's going on. Don't worry. I can ensure safety. It's better to do so. You should take less actions recently, so as not to be exposed." Laxus said, and then turned and left. Leila looked at Laxus's figure getting farther and farther away, and muttered, "What a tsundere." Then she slowly packed up her things and put them in the wooden house, while thinking whether she should expand this wooden house. After all, Gray and Leo might come here to exercise later. Speaking of these two brothers, they have been fully arranged by Ulu's exercise plan these days. Because Eulushia's body is still learning time magic, Ulu can't take care of the two of them, so Ulu made a plan to let Leo take Gray to exercise. Chapter 40. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day, Gildarts took Kana's hand and came to the guild. As soon as he entered the door, he saw Makarov, who had been waiting for a long time, and Ulu was sitting next to him. Leila and Eulushia were sitting at a table in the tavern, as if they were discussing something. Laxus sat aside, with his arms folded across his chest, listening to their conversation carefully. As soon as Eulushia saw Kana's figure, she couldn't wait to stand up and call her name, waving her to come over. Gildarts let go of Kana's hand, whispered a word, and Kana ran over. Gildarts then walked towards Makarov and asked what was going on. Makarov just asked him to follow, and then entered a room, followed by Ulu. Leila saw Kana coming, smiled and asked her if she had seen the method of making cards and how she felt. Kana told her feelings truthfully. After she went back yesterday, she bought some materials for making cards and some basic decks on the way according to the knowledge in her memory. She went home and tried to make some, but the success rate was not high. Later, due to insufficient magic power, she had to give up the idea of continuing to make. After Kana finished speaking, she took out several cards made last night from the bag on her waist. The patterns on these cards were exactly what Leila used yesterday. Moreover, Kana added magic power during the production process, which enhanced the power of the cards. "Well, okay, Kana, I have an idea." Leila nodded with satisfaction. "What?" Kana asked curiously. "As we all know, card wizards need to buy a lot of cards to supplement their decks. However, most card wizards do not know how to make cards, and the magic power of card makers is very limited. This is also the reason why card magic is comprehensive but not powerful enough. After all, if magic power is strong, who would choose this profession?" Leila explained seriously. "But, Kana, you are different. You can make your own cards, and as the daughter of Gildarts, you have considerable magic power. Therefore, you can make some powerful cards." Leila's eyes were full of expectation. Kana heard Leila's explanation, and her eyes flickered, as if she had seen the powerful cards she made. Leila did not stop, and continued to talk. "Next, it's the card types. First of all, your card types are not comprehensive enough. Now you only have some simple magic cards, basically elemental magic, and special effect cards are only paralysis and sleep. The purchased cards are basically these, so you need to make them yourself. The cards you make can be roughly divided into 3 categories: summon cards, magic cards, and trap cards. Summoning card, you can summon some creatures or items. For example, you can summon a dragon, or you can summon various tools in life. Magic cards are the mainstream elemental magic of most card wizards nowadays. They are mainly comprehensive magic that can deal with different enemies. Trap cards are cards with special effects, such as cards that can speed up magic recovery, make cards invisible, poison enemies, and other troublesome cards. However, in this case, your magic power consumption will be very large. You are still growing and your magic power has not been fully developed, so you must train well. When your magic power increases, you will become a unique card wizard. Kana was fascinated by what Leila said. Every time Leila said something, she imagined a picture in her mind. Leila stopped, picked up the teacup on the table, put it to her mouth and paused for a moment. She was secretly proud of herself. I must look so handsome in this way. She could already feel Kana's admiring gaze, and then she took a sip of tea. Leila, why do you have so many strange ideas? Ultia sat opposite, her eyes widened, shocked by Leila's wonderful ideas. This is talent, right? Leila replied calmly and nonchalantly. He was secretly proud of himself. I didn't play the card game for nothing. Ultimately, you still have to improve your magic power. Laxus said. Laxus, if you want to improve your strength quickly, I can also give you some advice. Leila looked at Laxus with a sly smile, her eyes revealing a hint of cunning. I don't need it. I'm going to practice. Laxus said disdainfully. He stood up and prepared to leave, but was stopped by Leila. Wait a minute, follow me, let's go together. After Leila finished speaking, she brought Altair and Kana to the intelligence room. Laxus folded his arms and leaned against the door frame, already looking arrogant. Leila walked in, drew a magic circle on the ground, and then quickly hid under the wooden board. When he stepped on the magic circle appeared again, but there was no sign of magic being activated. What kind of magic circle is this? Kana and Ultia asked curiously. Their eyes were attracted and they stared at the magic circle closely. Hey, watch out! Leila picked up a magic crystal from the bookshelf in the room and carefully placed it in the center of the magic circle. Suddenly, words flashed like lightning, and then another magic circle appeared on the floor. A dazzling white light lit up within a meter of the center of the magic circle. Kana, Ultia, go in and take a look. Leila said, curious. Kana and Ultia carefully stepped over the magic circle and walked into the white light. Suddenly, the white light dissipated and the two disappeared. Let's go, Laxus, stop trying to show off. Leila glanced back at Laxus, then reached out and pulled him to the side of the magic circle. I'm not trying to be cool, and are you teleporting? Right. Laxus wanted to ask more, but Leila pushed him hard without mercy, and he stumbled and fell into the white light. Okay, then just talk to Gildarts and Ulu. After seeing Laxus being teleported away, Leila prepared to go see if they had discussed the matter, and then explain the matters concerning the teleportation array. Leila opened the door and bumped into Gildarts and Ulu. She bumped directly into Gildarts, who touched his head and muttered, Uncle, slow down. Leila, where is Kana? Gildarts ignored Leila's complaint and looked into the intelligence room, but found that Kana was not there. Where's Ultia? Ulu asked from behind. Oh, you ask that, look. Leila swaggered into the room with a smug look on her face. What? Gildarts said calmly, but he sensed a hint of magic in the air. Take one more step forward and you will know. Leila directed Gildarts to walk into the magic circle. Gildarts took a step forward doubtfully. When his foot landed, the magic circle emerged, and a cylindrical white light appeared in the middle. Oh. Teleportation magic. Gildarts realized that the attribute of this magic was a kind of space magic, and it was very similar to teleportation. Leila, is this the magic circle you drew? Wooloo was also a little surprised. That's right, let's go, I'll explain it to you when we get there. Leila pushed the two of them into the white light and teleported away. After Leila left, Makarov walked in. Huh? Where's the person? I saw him walk in just now. He touched his bald head, shook his head and walked out. It must be Leila who used teleportation to teleport the person away. Let's talk about it later. Chapter 41. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Leila, you are so slow. Kana was about to ask why Leila took so long to teleport here, but when she looked closely, she found that the person in front of her was not Leila. Dad! Why are you here? Kana was so shocked that she stood there in a daze. It took her a while to come back to her senses and ask. Mom! When Ultia saw Ulu following closely behind Gildarts, a happy smile immediately broke out on her face, and she ran over and hugged Ulu tightly. Leila followed and walked out of the magic circle. After the white light dissipated, the magic circle also quietly disappeared. He glanced at everyone, but didn't care. He squatted down and carefully felt the magic power content in the magic crystal in the magic circle. After some exploration, Leila found that the magic power of the magic crystal had been consumed by about half, and 6 people were teleported. In this way, this ordinary magic crystal can only support a single person to teleport 12 times. It seems that the efficiency of the use of magic power in the magic crystal needs to be improved, and part of the magic power has been input into the ritual. This is just an ordinary magic crystal. If it is a more advanced magic crystal, it may be able to last longer, but the price is not cheap, and it is still a money-burning thing. Leila, your teleportation magic circle is quite convenient. How did you do it? Laxus approached and looked down to see that Leila had opened her eyes and removed her hand from the magic circle. Laxus' question also aroused the curiosity of the 4 people behind him. After all, this teleportation magic circle could be used by other people, which would surely bring great convenience. They also held their breath and waited for Leila's explanation. The magic we usually use is based on our own magic power, which is then transformed into a magic circle. Each specific magic circle corresponds to a specific magic. My teleportation magic circle uses magic crystal as the source of magic power, which provides a continuous supply of magic power for the magic circle. I drew the magic circle in these 2 locations. When the magic circle is activated, it will draw magic power from the magic crystal to activate the teleportation magic. This can be regarded as a unique holding system teleportation item. Unfortunately, there is still a shortcoming. The utilization rate of magic crystals is not high. If you want to use them, you need to consume a lot of magic crystals. Leila took out another magic crystal and put it into the magic circle. The magic crystal immediately disappeared. Where is the magic crystal? Altair asked curiously, and Kana nodded repeatedly. Obviously she was also curious about this question. I added a spell and set rules for the magic circle. Only when someone with the guild emblem steps into the magic circle will the magic circle be activated. If no one is noticed or is not a member of the guild, the magic circle will not be activated, thus hiding the magic crystal and the magic circle. In addition, due to the limitation of teleportation, I fixed the teleportation distance, and then realized the fixed point teleportation through the connection between the 2 magic arrays. I have been studying this for a long time, and it was not until recently that I finally perfected it. Now it seems that further improvement is needed. Leila recalled the hardships along the way. For this research, many small animals paid the price of their lives. In the end, with the belief of serving the people and the unremitting determination, he succeeded in bringing it to the world. It sounds amazing. Kana was confused, but her admiration for Leila did not diminish. After all, Leila had given her some advice on cards before. Yeah. Altair also echoed, she knew a little about the principle. This idea was indeed very avant-garde. Ha ha ha, oh, by the way, Gildarts, you have to pay. Leila heard Kana and Altair's praise and laughed proudly twice, then suddenly turned to Gildarts who was standing aside in amazement and asked for money. Why? Gildarts was secretly amazed at Leila's ingenious ideas, but was suddenly asked for money, and was stunned. Without Jay, how can we spread the cost of technology development? It's not easy for me to do research. Besides, I also provided the magic crystals, and you have to prepare them by yourselves. Do you still expect me to do charity? Leila said righteously. What about them? I didn't come here alone. Gildarts couldn't accept it and pointed at Ulu and Laxus, while Kana and Altair were not mentioned specifically. Ulu is a woman, the first time is free. Laxus has no money, so he is exempted this time. You are different, uncle, you have money. Laila's words deeply hurt Gildarts' heart. Ulu, Kana and Ultia watched the confrontation between Leila and Gildarts, covering their mouths and laughing. Laxus turned his head to look at the ground, pursed his lips, trying not to laugh. I don't have any money. Gildarts finally compromised, but he did not have any money. It's okay, I'll keep the account for you. Leila took out an account book from behind her back, picked up a pen and wrote on it, Gildarts teleports twice, price to be determined. Wait, why twice? Gildarts glanced at Leila's account book. Aren't you going back later? Leila looked at him with a puzzled look. I will walk back by myself later instead of taking the teleporter. Gildarts said angrily. Okay, don't be angry, I'll give it to you for free later. Leila said nonchalantly, and then changed it in the account book. Oh, it feels so good to have control over others. That's more like it. Gildarts said reluctantly. Then the 6 people walked out of the house, and Kana also prepared to practice with Laxus. However, this time, Laxus became extremely cautious, because after listening to Leila's various insidious tricks, Kana gradually put pressure on Laxus. Gildarts went fishing. He is indeed a real fisherman and is addicted to fishing. Leila called him to sit here and rest for a while, but Gildarts couldn't even hold on for a minute. He couldn't wait to walk to the river after saying something to Leila. Ultia was on the other side and began to practice magic with full concentration. She took out the crystal ball that Ulu bought for her yesterday, and placed the Arc Magic Book of Time next to it. Ultia compared it with the magic book, raised the crystal ball, closed her eyes, and placed a glass of water in front of her. The water in the glass was constantly surging, but there was no obvious change. Ultia was not discouraged. She tried again and again, carefully studying every detail in the magic book. Section. Ulu watched Ultia's training quietly and gave her support silently. Leila sat at the table, concentrating on writing the modification plan for the teleportation magic circle. He had thought before whether he could transfer his own magic power into it and store it, but other people's magic power might not work. Only his own magic power can play a role. Perhaps it will only be useful if people who can use teleportation magic input magic power. This point needs to be modified later. Add a magic converter in the middle to convert other people's magic power into the attributeless magic power in the magic crystal, which should be able to achieve universal use. For now, it can only be like this temporarily. The details of the magic circle need to be recarved and some details need to be added. The spell also needs to add more conditional settings. It's so annoying. In this way, the magic power required has increased again. Leila tilted his head in distress, his left hand clenched into a fist to support his chin, looking up at the sky at a 45-degree angle, his right hand unconsciously turning the pen, shaking his head and sighing from time to time.